Hello and welcome back to CW Live. Great to be back with you. Now, you've probably noticed a bit of a different setup today, and that's because we're in our new studio. We're almost very nearly ready to show you what it looks like. Not much longer to go, I promise. But this week, we'll be looking at the big plans the CWU has in store, including news regarding the show and our offering to you, our members. And for that, we've got our head of communications and my boss, Chris Webb, joining us. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Omar. Good to be with you.
Thanks for being here. And now, to kick things off, first of all, if we can start off with you telling us a bit about your background in the union, please.
Well, so yeah, really good job, Jan, by the way, and you're doing a brilliant job. There's some boss plaudits straight away. Now, so I, like most of our representatives, started, in the industry. So I worked for Royal Mail at Plymouth Sorting Office, joined when I was 17 and a half, I think, and came through the union industry, so represented the Plymouth Sorting Office for a number of years. Actually, probably even to now is probably my favourite role in the whole union, being with your mates every single day and causing trouble and building the union and building solidarity and loads of great stories and strikes and antics in that era. Then went on to become a divisional rep, so a field official for the CWU. I loved that role as well, so represented the whole of South Wales and South West, all the Royal Mail workers within that area, which was fantastic again, and got to the chance to organise on a wider level, whilst never forgetting my roots, if you like it, back in Plymouth. So that was brilliant. And then Dave, who was our General Secretary, I'm sure we'll talk about, and I know has been a guest on the shows so far, and is next week's guest as well, became General Secretary. Mm-hmm. And I was part of Dave's campaign team, when he ran for General Secretary, and he ran on a ticket of transparency, of opening the union up, of engaging more than ever, and basically giving the union back to the members. And it was something that I really, really believed in and was invested in. So when the job came up for head of communications at CW following Dave's election, I applied, got the role. Here we are 7 years later with loads and loads of water under the bridge, but still loving the job very much. And not thinking back, and I think it is good for the union to have like outright qualified, university educated professionals at certain levels of our movement is fantastic. But I think it's also good to have people like Dave, people like myself, and loads of others in our union particularly, who have been on the tools and know and feel what our members go through on a daily basis.
And 7 years, that's quite a while.
It is, yeah. But Dave hasn't got rid of me yet. I used the word yet.
You say yeah, but you're doing a fantastic job, and we've got this show now, obviously because of you. We'll talk about more about that in a bit. But first of all, in the 7 years that you've been in the post, and obviously you've been under Dave in that time as well, how have things changed in that time?
Well, from a comms perspective?
Yeah.
So, I think we've done a complete 180. I think we've completely overhauled our communication strategy. That was part of Dave's election manifesto, and his pledge and his campaign was that when he came in, we would bring our union closer to the members. And I certainly think we've done that, and we've done that probably, and it's hard, isn't it? Because obviously I've been central to that, secondary to Dave, of course, and with a load of help from the team that work down in the comms department and the branches and the reps buying into it. But we've completely changed things around, and so we came in and we had a look at stuff, and we looked at what the union had been doing. There was some fantastic work, and the union had done some great stuff on comms over the years, but we felt we could really improve it. So I think every single area, whether it's the most important area, which is in the workplace, we have when we campaign, when we have strike ballots, we have more meetings than any other union in the country. Whether it's social media, which we've completely overhauled, video, our press work, our website, all the sort of different aspects of the role we've completely sort of taken to, dismantled, and then rebuilt in a really, really different way, by putting at the heart of it our members, but also at the heart of it putting, like, if we put a tweet out, or if we put a Facebook post, or any other content, we give the members a job to do. It's not just there, like, a funny tweet is not just there to amuse people, it's to give people confidence, or it's to give them a message to take back into the workplace the next day. And this show, if you like, it is the next plank of that for us as a union. It's saying, how do we, for those who like football, not all of our membership do. For those who like football, Sir Alex Ferguson used to say, if you don't buy every season, you don't stand still, you start going backwards. So if we don't think and innovate and continue to improve constantly, then other organisations will catch up and overtake it. By other organisations, I mean Royal Mail, BT, and the companies where our members are.
Now, there are a lot of different areas to comms. There's written material dealing with the press, social media, live shows, events. How do you cover all of these? There's a lot on your plate. So how do you actually,
Sometimes with difficulty, but I think it's about making sure that you're not treating all those things as separate entities. So you would, that sounds, a bit of a contradiction what I'm going to say now, because you wouldn't, on Twitter, for example, or X as it's now called, you would communicate in a sharper and different way than you perhaps would in a magazine. You've got time to really lay out a thought piece. But the core for us has to stay the same. One of the things that I noticed when I took the role was that the union adapted its communication strategy to its audience. And what I mean by that, we would send a letter to the Labour Party and I would look at it and go, I don't think that gets our case across. And people would say, well, that's how Labour like us to write to them. Or we would send a press release out to the right-wing media and people would go, oh, they won't print it unless we, write it in a certain way and cover it in a certain way. And what I've been really keen to do, and it's been obviously led by Dave, is to say we are a union of postal, telecommunication, financial, and latterly tech workers. We need to look, feel, and speak like them. And if other organisations don't like that, then tough. If we don't get the media, then tough, because actually it's more important that we speak with authenticity and we speak on behalf of our members than anything. But what's actually happened, the truth of it all, is that authenticity has brought us mass media coverage. It's given Dave Ward, a regular show on LBC where he gets to speak to the nation for an hour, undiluted. It's got us front page after front page. It's got us on every TV show in the country, and of course, it's got us in our own infrastructure. Tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of followers and views, because people come because they're saying that's the place where I'm going to hear exactly what's going on.
So that authenticity and being true to identity has really worked out well for the union and for comms.
If I see Dave, not to obviously wax too lyrical about Dave, it's obviously so many brilliant people in the union, but if I see Dave with his mates in Tooting, his delivery office where he's from, and he goes there, and sometimes I have the privilege of going and meeting him with him. It's as if he hasn't left that delivery office 30 years ago. The band's heard a bit, and I have that same feeling when I go down to Plymouth. And you'll see people, and loads of our senior reps will when they go back to their work, and that's what makes our union unique. Nobody's more important than each other, and I think that's really, really integral to our strategy. Really, is making sure members feel like their voice is heard and their voice is represented, and that means the union staying close to people.
I see. Well, going back to what you said, you've had some great successes in the comms department over the years that you've been in here. What are some of the few key highlights that you've had over the years? Some really big, success stories.
Well, we've won more national strike ballots as a union than the whole of the rest of the trade union movement put together. So, we were the first union to win a national strike ballot since the introduction of the anti-union laws in 2016, so that was a big milestone moment. I think back after Dave's election, we held what was an absolutely incredible rally in Manchester at a Tory Party conference, where we had optimistically booked Manchester Cathedral, which held 1,500 people, and thought, if we can get that half full, we'd be doing well. And we ended up filling that and having 10,000 people outside as Jeremy Corbyn came to speak at the rally. It was his first engagement after he'd been elected Labour Party leader. That was a special night. So I say all the ballot wins, all the sort of infrastructure we built in terms of, the live shows. Some of the live shows we've held have been the legendary, of 60,000-70,000 people on live, totally turning around difficult situations with the employer and putting pressure on them. And during the recent Royal Mail and BT Group disputes, obviously for the posties, we held a rally in Westminster just before Christmas. I think it was Christmas, right now, Christmas 22. And it was 17,500 Royal Mail workers at Parliament Square on a Friday. So probably the best day I've ever had in the union, probably the best day many people have had in unions. So loads and loads of individual things, but there's some highlights that stick out, I think. Hopefully the show can be another one when it gets going.
Oh, hopefully. Well, that's the thing. You're not standing still. It's as you said earlier, you're constantly looking to innovate and to find new ways to reach and engage with our audience. And I guess that kind of leads on to this show. It's part of a new strategy that you've got. Can you just go into that a little bit? Yeah,
so I mean, it's for many reasons, really. So the first thing to say is, and we've got Gary, who's behind the camera there, who works at Navarro's, a hugely talented individual. Actually, I don't know how he's got away from not being in this interview, because we discussed that earlier on, so it's stitching up a bit. He's smiling. But Gary and I was speaking sort of I'm talking like pre-pandemic, about this sort of thing. I've had this idea for a long time that we could go out there and build something special within the trade, not only our union but the whole trade union movement. Because if you look at like the infrastructure and the money that unions have, if that was pooled, we could rival like LBC, stations like GB News and stuff. But we don't do that. We all work in weird and individualistic ways. So I had this sort of plan that, ultimately we could have like almost like a talk radio station ultimately as a trade union movement. The pandemic made that obviously difficult because we were all scattered to all corners of a nation, and then the disputes, which were like the first dispute in BT Group for 40 years, 4 decades, which is huge, and an industry-defining dispute in Royal Mail, meant it was all hands to deck in terms of like saving the industry, protecting members' jobs, saving union in many, many ways. So people like Dave, myself, Tony Cairns, Andy Fury, Andy Kirk, Aaron Rose, and many others. I should have gone through a list there because I'll make myself in trouble, but many others did so much to do what needed to be done during that period. And I think that that was the priority. And then sort of I took the attitude coming off that we can't come through that and think like the world is going to remain the same, because it's not. So we had a members magazine, a really long-standing magazine that's been fantastic, called The Voice. It's been called other things in previous eras, but The Voice went to every member home address 3 times a year. Now it was brilliant, and it was a useful tool during useful times, but we felt as an NEC, as a national executive, at its time had passed. And one of the real good things about making the decision that its time had passed is it cost a lot of money, because post, as we know now, costs an inordinate amount of money to post, doesn't it? So there was a huge saving, a huge pot of money that sort of materialised from that. So what we've been able to do is develop a strategy, which is to build this weekly show, to build a new monthly podcast for BT Group members, a new monthly podcast for Royal Mail Group members, a quarterly magazine for our retired members, and a monthly workplace bulletin for all Royal Mail Group and all BT Group members, which is written and goes direct to workplaces. That's critical, because digital and video is fantastic, but we have to maintain the written word. I'm a big believer in written communication. So we got all this and all that new strategy for around about half of the cost of what the magazine was. So we've been able to produce this and move into the new area, which I'm really, really confident will lift our levels of engagement to an unprecedented point in any era of the CW, or in fact any other trade union. And we've been able to be frugal with members' money, so I think we've done all right.
And so how will all of that be better than what we've got at the moment? In what ways?
Well, because I think what I've recognised is that different people like to digest information in different ways. So some people really like to sit down and read back to front a magazine. Some people like to just say, give it to me in 30 seconds. Some people want to sit down every week and watch a show for an hour. Some people want it given to them in a tweet. What the beauty of this strategy is, we're doing all of those things. So previously we only had the resource to do the magazine because of the cost of it. So if you were one of those 30-second clip person, we're not doing it for you. If you wanted to come on and listen to what the union had said on a weekly basis, like people watching us doing, the union is not for you. If you fancied out on your delivery or in your open reach run, putting the podcast in for an hour, we weren't catering for you. So what we've developed now is a far more rounded strategy that costs a lot less, but I think will reach far more members. And I think you're already seeing, and this chat is the last, if you like, of our pilots, our multiple pilot episodes of the show. And next week we move into like what is like a stunningly new purpose-built studio that I think is going to knock the socks off people. And I think I'm going to be honest with you, I think when people see the show next week and they see the things that are going to go on, any doubts will be removed.
Another thing about that, actually, and we've teased about it now for a little bit, members will get to have their say. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so listen, this is another thing really following Dave's election that we've done, I think, better than any other trade union. So we were the first union in the country to have a Facebook Live. So this is before the days when Facebook did video. So Dave would say in a status, I'm live, and people would have to type their questions in a comment, and I would be there like the top secretary in the country, smashing out 10 to the dozen the responses, and people loved it, and we used it as a key part of his election campaign. We moved then on when Facebook did video to Dave was on camera, and like people were like, wow, I cannot, so Omar says, Dave, what's going on in my delivery office is a disgrace, and Dave says, oh, actually, Omar, you're right, and Omar's empowered by that. He got to ask the General Secretary a question, or he got to criticise the union or challenge the union or give an idea, and it was just so powerful and exciting. And then during the disputes, honestly, we've been able to take it to a new level where we've obviously used technology. We've incorporated pre-recorded videos. We've been sharing screenshots. We've held polls, and of course, we've really rallied people. But the beauty of this show, which is a first for our movement, is we're going to have the ability to have a live phone in, and I think that's. Some people in our union and some people in other unions and some people outside of a movement will be scared stiff by that prospect. Like, you mean someone can come on and they can say anything? Yes, that's just what I mean. Like, and you will, if you watch Jeremy Vine ever, sometimes people come on and they'll make a prank call and they'll, throw a profanity out, and that we're going to get that, and you're going to have to take the rough with the smooth in that. But the prospect of someone coming on air undiluted to Dave, to Martin Welsh, to Karen Rose, to any of our other officers, and saying, I disagree with you. I disagree with the direction you're taking. This is why, and this is what I think. And then having that question answered by those officers, I think, is like the pinnacle of democracy, of transparency, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
I love it. You're purely excited about it. You're not scared at all?
No, not at all. No, because, listen, our team will do brilliant, I'm sure, in making sure that people who come on are legit, but there's no caveats, is there? So, you listen to LBC or you watch a Jeremy Vine show, you're going to get, moments where someone gets through and they say something totally idiotic, and we'll have to cut them off, and we're going to have to go, I'm sorry about that. But the reward far outweighs the risk, and it is the right of our members to, we'll not come on and say, F this, F that, but it's a right of our members. If you pay your money to this union, then it is your right to hold, whether it's your local branch, your divisional rep, your regional rep, your field official, executive, or right up to Dave Ward to account. And the beauty of having like Dave, Martin Welsh, Karen Rose, Andy Kerr, and loads and loads of other people is they're like, yeah, that is their right, and I'm happy to sit there and take those questions.
And all up for it. No, that's great. I love that. But to my knowledge,
you will hear some absolutely legendary content in the next few weeks.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure everyone else out there is as well. But to my knowledge as well, no other union does this, right? Like there's no other show being made by another union for its members, dedicated to them. This is groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, the first thing I should say is loads of other unions do some fantastic stuff, and credit to them. And I think improving communications has been a priority of loads of unions. Think of like the National Education Union, of the UCU, of the RMT. Wow, that the RMT's Twitter presence was like turning the government inside out last summer, doesn't it? So we know that our peers are doing really, really well. But this show, yes, I think we are the first union to go for a weekly show. Have the beauty of our members, which I love, is people who said to me, I think one of the NEC members was saying, really supportive of the plan to have a show, but are you going to have enough content? Have you ever met a postal or telecom worker? Are we going to have enough content? We got enough content to do an hourly show. Like, people have got something to say, we will have no problem filling this. And I would expect we're going to reach the point where people are going to say, hopefully, we need to do more. And that's obviously going to need to be reviewed and resourced and stuff like that. But I'm really confident that starting out weekly is a good point.
Yeah. Well, finally, you've mentioned a whole lot of other things that we're looking to do on top of this show, like the podcast, for example, the bulletins. This show obviously has kicked off, but then there are other things to come out. Roughly, when can we expect them to start debuting?
Yeah, so we've got them going. So the Carl Stewart, who's our editor, is doing a fantastic job. So I think we've done 2 Royal Mail Group workplace bulletins and 2 BT Group workplace bulletins already.
Okay.
So we're dispatching them by email to branches. Branches are then printing them off. Some of our telecoms branches members don't work in a workplace, so they're being emailed them. But the telecoms and financial service members and the Royal Mail Group members who have a workplace, we're giving it to the branches, and their duty is to print and then cascade. And the beauty of that is that gives branches a reason to go into the workplace. I've got something physical to go in, hold a briefing about, distribute amongst the members. So we know we're creating another contact point there, which is great. The first issue of the new quarterly Retired Members magazine is gone to print. I think we'll be landing with people right about now, actually.
Wow.
So, our retired members are a crucially important part of the union. I mean, people often say, oh yeah, but they've done their time. But they're a brilliant campaigning force. A lot of them have got a lot of time on their hands. Obviously, they're retired, which is fantastic. So they can go into Parliament, they can lobby their MP, they can do letter write, they can get part in any solidarity campaigning we're doing. So we are super keen to make sure retired members are supported. And I think we've done 1 episode now of the Industrial podcast for our Royal Mail Group members, and we are speaking to Karen Rose, Andy Kerr about getting the telecoms and financial service one off the ground. So yeah, I think the plan really, we said we're going to do it, we're doing it.
It's already kicked off, it's already underway. I love that. Chris, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before we let you go though, time for your regular your favourite part of the show. I know that.
I know, yeah. What are you going to put at me?
Oh, well, let's find out.
Some stock questions, I know, but... Yeah.
Oh, well, this is the last question that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normally you get to pick the 3 people that...
I'm worried about that, yeah.
I picked them now. Well, me and Adrian did earlier. It's time now for On The Spot. Each week we will ask our main guest, Chris this week, obviously, to answer the same 5 questions. Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Right. First of all, if you are elected Prime Minister, what would be the first thing that you would do?
I think this is... I'm not sure if anyone has said this before. I think they might have done the show, and I think I've just agreed with them, and it would be to end homelessness. Because I just think it is such a scourge on this nation and such an absolute outright disgrace. And I think, it's just cruel and it's unnecessary, and it's just a sign of how brutal this government and its predecessors have been. So, my first thing would be undoubtedly to end homelessness. And I think as a sort of a knock-on, sort of a 1.5, if I can nick one, would be to resolve the housing crisis and the housing price.
Oh, probably go hand in hand a bit.
Yeah, so those 2 things, I think housing would be an absolute number 1 for me.
Wonderful. So, great. If you weren't head of comms, what would you be?
Number 9 for Plymouth Argyle.
What would you realistically be?
Number 7. No, little known. I don't know if you know. I did. I sort of lived out my dream really, because I was the president of Plymouth for 6 or 7 years, and in another life, Omar. So I've lived that dream out. So I guess, like in the absence, what would I be? I'll probably just be in the sorting office in Plymouth. Really happy amongst my mates, getting loads of stick, giving out loads of stick, and back in the union. Yeah,
I love that. Actually, sounds really ideal. What 3 items would you take with you to a desert island?
I would take a pen and paper, because I've always got ideas, most of them mad, so I wouldn't want to miss out, and I like writing things down, so I'll do that. And I've always really wanted to write a book or books, so I'd want to probably, if I had time, do that there and then. I would take a radio, because I think a radio would be good company, and I would make sure it had Radio Devon on, so I could listen to Plymouth Argyle every Saturday. So that would be a good radio. I think a radio. And I would take a toolbox with me, because I think it might come in handy in building things, so it might keep me alive. So not a hammer, saw, that sort of stuff.
Just pop into the local screw fix on the island.
Yeah, make myself a raft, that sort of thing, fishing rod, all that sort of thing. Yeah, so I'll be a bit practical, I think.
I love that. Yeah. Your signature karaoke tune, please.
Undoubtedly, you will not know this. I know you didn't know one earlier on. You're definitely not going to know this. It's a song called the Jana Song. A Janner is is a Plymouthian, so like a Geordie, someone from Newcastle, a Cockney's Londoner. A Janner is a Plymouthian. There's a song called the Janner song, which Plymouth Argyle come out to. So that one, give you one you might know. If I had to do it, upset people in a karaoke, I'd probably sing Combine Harvester by the Wersos in my West Country accent.
I still don't know. Does anyone here know that?
Yeah. I am going niche here big time, aren't I?
I was about to say, I was worried that I just don't know good songs, but I'll have a listen after. Right, fifth and final one. Great question. You love this one. I know it. 3 people and you have to choose which one you would do the following with and why. Go to dinner with, share a prison cell with, and never see again. And your 3 people are Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, Tory party donor Frank Hester, and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Right, okay, let's start with never see the Tory again, because I think
it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy, no question. Any Tory out in my life.
Okay.
So we're gone, Tory's out. So we got Kate Middleton, 100% going to dinner with Kate Middleton. First thing I'm doing is taking a photo and saying, this one isn't edited, it isn't Photoshop, it's real. I'm getting out there on the internet. I found Kate, so like I could be here like a hero of the nation, couldn't I? So I'm getting at that. I'm 100% going for like dinner with Kate, just to basically trick her into having a selfie, so I can put it out there. And actually, what I put out there, what I would do is like sell it to a reputable paper and give the money to a union strike fund. Actually,
okay. So again, being practical.
So that leaves me in jail with Putin.
Which is, would you really want to be in a jail?
I would be in jail with Putin because he's going to have some mental stories, isn't he? And he's going to be like, I can get into him about all the Americans and the characters and that kind of why he's hacking people and what he's up to. And if I'm in jail with him, maybe we can have a little judo fight as well. He's a judo professional. I did judo as a kid. My brother was actually the Great Britain judo champion.
Really?
Well, as a kid, yeah. So maybe I could like re-skill myself and we could have a little judo fight to keep ourselves entertained.
I thought this would be harder, to be honest with you. You actually nailed that so easily.
I've not nailed it. I've proposed a judo fight with Vladimir Putin. That's not nailed it.
I mean, you know you're going to lose. But Chris, thank you so much for coming on again. Any final words you want to give to our audience before we do go?
I think thanks, Omar. And I meant what I said about yourself and all of the team. I think you've been doing an incredible job under difficult circumstances while we've been sort of, really biting and scratching to build the studio. From next week, you're going to see what I think is like something incredibly special for our union and the whole movement. We are so proud to represent you. We put everything into, trying to improve how we engage with you, how we reach with you, and how we sort of, match your aspirations of what you want to see from the union. So thanks for everyone that's tuned in, whether it's you've watched 30 seconds of one of our clips, whether you've watched all of the shows, whether you've watched 1 or 2 of them, whatever it is, you are making a difference to the union and its connectivity with its members. So we're super proud to represent you. We hope you're going to enjoy the show. We think you're going to be really, really proud of it, and we're proud to have you as members too. So I'm excited, mate. I think you hopefully tell that. Next week's a big week for the union. We've got Dave in, headphones on, you ringing up to give him some stick. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate it, boss. Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone, as Chris said, who's watched us up until now. Next week, we'll be in our new studio. I mean, we are already, but you'll see the whole thing.
Yeah, you can't see what's behind you, can they?
No, they can't. They really can't. It's beautiful, trust me. You will really enjoy it. We're already loving it. We've still got a little bit of finessing to do. Give us a little bit of time as we, feel out things and change how, it all feels and sounds and looks. We will get to where we need to get to in the coming weeks. But we will be introducing things like live call-ins in the coming weeks as well, as Chris mentioned, and when that happens, you'll come on and we will have a lot of fun together, I'm sure. But if there's anything or anyone you'd like to see in the future, please comment and send in your questions and thoughts. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in, and until next week, stick with your union.